Have you ever wondered what really lurks in the forgotten corners of our world? What secrets whisper through the forests, drift across the rivers, and haunt the quiet roads of America after midnight? From ghostly brides and cursed witches to winged monsters and phantom ships, every legend carries a heartbeat of truth. Welcome to Mr. Folklore, the place where ancient stories breathe again, and where the line between myth and reality begins to blur. In this series, we'll uncover 10 of the most chilling, mysterious, and unforgettable American folklore tales. Stories that shape small towns, haunted generations, and still send shivers down spines today. Each story is more than just a tale. It's a glimpse into what we fear, what we believe, and what might still be out there. Because behind every myth lies a mystery waiting to be uncovered. So before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our journeys into the shadows. Now, dim the lights, steady your heart, and open your mind, because this isn't just storytelling, it's a descent into the unknown. I'm your host, and this is Mr. Folklore. Let's begin our journey. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Have you ever heard the sound of hooves echoing through the mist of a moonlit night? Long after the rider should have passed, imagine a sleepy valley where shadows seem to move on their own, where whispers rise with the fog, and where the line between myth and madness blurs like smoke in the autumn air. That place is Sleepy Hollow, a name that carries both beauty and dread, a valley shrouded in ancient stillness, and home to one of the most chilling tales in American folklore. The story of the legend of Sleepy Hollow is not merely about a ghost, but about fear itself, how the mind shapes its own monsters in the darkness of superstition and imagination. Not far from the Hudson River in New York lies the quiet village of Tarrytown, and just beyond it, a drowsy little glen called Sleepy Hollow. Time seems to move slower there. The air hangs heavy with enchantment, and every rustle of leaves carries the weight of 100 whispered legends. The people of Sleepy Hollow live as though under a spell, peaceful by day, uneasy by night. They believe in ghosts, omens, and wandering spirits, especially one, the Headless Horseman. According to local lore, he was once a Hessian soldier decapitated by a cannonball during the Revolutionary War. Since that day, his restless spirit has ridden through the hollow in search of his lost head, galloping across the night with infernal speed, vanishing only when the church bell tolls before dawn. Into this world of eerie superstition comes Ichabod Crane, a lanky, awkward school teacher with a love for ghost stories and an even greater love for food and fortune. Ichabod's figure alone is the stuff of mockery, tall but bony, with long limbs that seemed too large for his body, and eyes that bulged with both curiosity and fear. He arrived in Sleepy Hollow to teach the children of the farming families, boarding from house to house, charming widows with his polite manners, and earning the envy of local men with his strange confidence. Despite his awkwardness, Ichabod had grand ambitions. He dreamed of wealth, luxury, and the finer things of life, all of which seemed within reach when he set his sights on Katrina Van Tassel, the beautiful daughter of the richest farmer in the valley. Katrina was young, radiant, and a skilled coquette. She knew how to draw admiration without ever giving her heart away. Her father's estate was vast and filled with every comfort Ichabod ever desired, from fertile fields to generous feasts. Ichabod soon found himself lost in dreams of marrying Katrina, inheriting the estate, and living like a lord among farmers. Yet there was one obstacle: Brom Van Brunt, better known as Brom Bones. A brawny, fearless local hero, Brom was everything Ichabod was not: strong, confident, and adored by everyone. He was known for his pranks, wild laughter, and his horse, Daredevil, whose strength and speed matched his own. Brom also sought Katrina's affection and it was clear that the two were well suited. Still, Ichabod, driven by greed and self-delusion, believed he could outwit Brom through charm and intellect. One crisp autumn evening, Ichabod received an invitation to a grand party at the Van Tassel farm, a night of feasting, music, and dancing beneath the soft glow of candles and the harvest moon. He arrived riding his borrowed, half-starved horse, Gunpowder, dressed in his best, with dreams of victory in his heart. Inside the Van Tassel mansion, the rooms glowed with warmth. Laughter filled the air. Tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, pies, and cider. Ichabod ate heartily, danced clumsily, and smiled foolishly at Katrina, imagining the house already his. But as the night drew on, the conversation turned to local legends, tales of ghosts that haunted Sleepy Hollow. And there, among flickering candles and hushed voices, the story of the Headless Horseman was retold. Brom Bones himself claimed he once raced the phantom and escaped by crossing the old bridge near the church, for it was said that the spirit could not cross consecrated ground. When the festivities ended, Ichabod lingered, hoping to speak privately with Katrina. What passed between them no one knew, but as he mounted Gunpowder and rode away into the dark, his face was pale and his heart heavy. Perhaps she had laughed at him. Perhaps she had rejected his foolish dreams. The night was still and cold, the road winding through dense woods and over hollow ground. Every sound seemed louder, the rustle of leaves, the creak of branches, the distant hoot of an owl. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of his vision, and every gust of wind made his imagination tremble. His thoughts turned to the ghost stories told earlier, and soon fear began to take hold. As Ichabod passed the great gnarled tree where the soldier was said to have lost his head, Gunpowder shied nervously. The night grew darker, the mist thicker, and Ichabod's pulse quickened. Then he saw it, a figure, black and motionless, standing in the middle of the road. It was cloaked in darkness, astride a great horse. Ichabod called out nervously, but no answer came. The figure began to move, silently at first, then faster, its horse's hooves thundering against the ground. Panic surged through Ichabod. He urged Gunpowder forward, but the poor animal, wild with terror, bolted down the road. Ichabod glanced over his shoulder. The dark rider followed close behind. The pounding hooves drew nearer, nearer still, until the pale moonlight revealed the horror. The rider had no head upon his shoulders. In its place, he carried it before him, a severed head glowing faintly in the dark. Terror consumed Ichabod as he raced toward the bridge, the one Brom Bones had said could save him. If he could only reach it, perhaps the ghost would vanish. The wind roared in his ears as Gunpowder galloped madly. The bridge appeared through the fog. Ichabod's heart pounded. The rider was almost upon him. He leaned forward, praying the story was true. They thundered across the bridge, and Ichabod looked back, and for a moment he thought he was safe. But then the phantom raised his arm and hurled his ghastly head straight at Ichabod. It struck him with a force that sent him tumbling from the saddle. The next morning, Gunpowder was found grazing by the road, Ichabod's hat nearby, and beside it, a shattered pumpkin. Ichabod Crane was never seen again in Sleepy Hollow. Some claimed the Headless Horseman carried him off into the night. Others whispered that Ichabod, humiliated and heartbroken, fled the village in secret. Years later, travelers passing through would speak of his strange disappearance, and the legend only deepened. Brom Bones, who soon married Katrina, always laughed whenever the story was mentioned, especially at the part about the pumpkin. But he never offered his own version of events. Whether the rider was truly a restless ghost or a prank by a jealous rival remains a mystery that Sleepy Hollow keeps close to its heart. Even now, when fog creeps low across the hollow and the night is still, locals swear they can hear the distant gallop of hooves, the echo of the Headless Horseman riding again in search of his lost head. The story endures not just because of its terror, but because it mirrors something deeply human, our need to believe in what lies beyond reason, our fascination with fear, and the haunting truth that sometimes the real ghosts are born from our own imagination. The legend of Sleepy Hollow is not only a tale of a man's downfall, but a timeless reminder that superstition, desire, and fear can twist reality until it becomes legend. And in the quiet valley of Sleepy Hollow, legends never truly die. They ride forever through the mist. Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. Have you ever heard the sound of thunder rolling across a clear sky and wondered if it weren't thunder at all, but the sound of a giant oose's laughter echoing over the forests and plains? In the heart of America's wild frontier, where trees stretch toward heaven and rivers cut through untouched wilderness, the old lumberjacks told tales by the fire, tales so big, so impossible, that they could only belong to the world of tall legends. And none stood taller, quite literally, than Paul Bunyan, the mighty lumberjack, and his loyal companion, Babe the Blue Ox. Together they weren't just men and beasts of strength. They were living symbols of the American frontier, enormous, unstoppable, and full of wild imagination. They say Paul Bunyan was born in the northeastern woods of Maine during a winter so cold that the geese froze mid-flight and snowflakes rang like bells when they hit the ground. From the very beginning, Paul was no ordinary child. It took 5 giant storks to carry him to his parents' cabin, and his first cry shattered windows for miles around. His cradle was made from a lumber wagon, and when he clapped his hands in joy, thunder shook the valleys. By the time he was a week old, he could knock down a tree just by playing with it, and when he took his first steps, he left footprints that later became lakes. Paul grew into a man larger than any other. His stride could cover miles, and his laughter could topple the snow off pine trees. But the wild lands of the American frontier were vast, and Paul knew he would need help to tame them. That help came one bitter winter morning after a storm of unimaginable fury. When Paul awoke, he saw the snow drift moving, not from the wind, but from something alive beneath it. Digging through the frost, he found a gigantic blue ox, frozen stiff but still breathing. Paul carried the creature home, built a roaring fire, and nursed it back to life. The ox, grateful and loyal, followed Paul wherever he went. Because of its strange blue color, a mystery no one ever explained, Paul named him Babe the Blue Ox. Babe wasn't just big, he was enormous. His back was so wide that a flock of birds could roost upon it, and when he walked through the forest, his hooves created valleys that filled with rivers. Together, Paul and Babe roamed from Maine to the Dakotas, from the icy north woods to the rolling prairies. Wherever they went, they changed the face of the land. When Paul dragged his axe, he carved deep ravines that later became canyons. When Babe plowed through snowdrifts, he created roads and rivers. It was said that the Great Lakes were made when Paul dug giant water holes for Babe to drink from. The lumber camps loved Paul. Whenever he set up camp, it stretched for miles, so large that the cook had to drive a wagon just to deliver flapjacks from one end to the other. They cooked on griddles so big that men skated across them to flip pancakes. The camp's coffee pot was as large as a house, and Babe had to haul the logs by the hundreds, dragging entire forests to the mill in a single day. Men would gather around the campfire at night, the flames flickering in their eyes, as Paul told stories that stretched as wide as the land itself. But the world was changing. The wilderness was shrinking. Towns grew, railroads spread like iron vines across the continent, and the old forests began to fall to smaller, faster hands. Paul Bunyan and Babe were creatures of a world that was disappearing, a world where nature was untamed and man's strength was measured in the swing of an axe. As steam engines roared and sawmills whirred, the great lumberjack found himself wandering farther into the untouched wilderness, where he could still hear the wind whisper through the endless trees. They say that when Paul saw his last tree fall, he stood silent, resting his mighty hands on his axe. He looked out over the land he had helped shape, the rivers, the valleys, the mountains, and he smiled. Then he turned to Babe, patted his blue hide, and together they walked off toward the northern horizon, where the forests never end and snow still falls thick and pure. Some say they disappeared into the aurora borealis, becoming part of the lights themselves, forever glowing above the lands they loved. Even now, when a great storm rolls through the Midwest, old-timers lean back in their chairs and smile. Paul's working again, they say. He and Babe are clearing the clouds. The tale of Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox is more than a story of giants. It is a testament to the wild heart of America, the spirit of invention, and the unbreakable bond between man and nature. Through every exaggeration and impossible feat, the story reminds us that greatness isn't always about size or strength. Sometimes it's about imagination, endurance, and the belief that even the largest dreams can leave their mark on the world. And perhaps somewhere in the deep woods where the trees grow so tall they touch the clouds, Paul Bunyan still swings his axe, and Babe still bellows across the hills, their laughter echoing like thunder over the endless frontier. Resurrection Mary. They say if you drive down Archer Avenue on a cold, misty night, you might see her. A pale girl in a white dress, standing by the roadside waiting. She looks lost, fragile, and heartbreakingly human. You slow down, maybe even stop, and she steps toward your car with a shy smile. But by the time you reach the gates of Resurrection Cemetery, she's gone. No scream, no goodbye, only the echo of her presence and the chill she leaves behind. This isn't just a story drivers tell to scare each other. It's a legend that has haunted Chicago for nearly a century. Her name is Resurrection Mary, and she's been hitchhiking through time itself, a ghost trapped between love and death, searching for the road home. It all began in the 1930s, during an age of swing music, dance halls, and endless Saturday nights. Chicago pulsed with rhythm and romance, and on the outskirts stood the O. Henry Ballroom, a place where laughter filled the air and the music carried hearts away. One winter night, a young woman named Mary, blonde, graceful, dressed in white, attended a dance there. She was said to be radiant, the kind of girl who made heads turn and hearts stumble. But as the night drew to an end, something happened. An argument, perhaps a heartbreak. No one knows for sure. What is known is that Mary left the ballroom alone, walking out into the freezing dark, her satin shoes crunching the ice as snow began to fall. That night, she never made it home. Some said a car struck her along Archer Avenue, a hit and run that left her broken on the side of the road. Others whispered darker theories, but in the end, her body was found and buried in Resurrection Cemetery, the iron gates watching silently over her final rest. Or what should have been her rest, because not long after, Mary was seen again. The first sightings came quietly. Drivers would report a girl standing by the roadside late at night, wearing a flowing white dress, her skin pale as moonlight. She'd wave for a ride, and when they stopped, she'd slip into the back seat or beside them, quiet, polite, her voice soft and distant. She'd say she needed to go up Archer Avenue. Everything about her felt real, the faint scent of flowers, the whisper of fabric as she moved. But as the car neared Resurrection Cemetery, she would vanish, not fade, not flee, vanish, leaving only cold air behind. Over the decades, her legend grew. In the 1970s, a man swore he picked up a young woman near the ballroom. She barely spoke, but asked to be taken home, gesturing toward the cemetery. When he turned to look at her, she was gone. Shaken, he reported it to the police. The story spread, and soon others came forward with tales eerily similar. Same girl, same dress, same stretch of lonely road. Then came one of the strangest discoveries of all. A cemetery caretaker arrived one morning to find the iron gates of Resurrection Cemetery twisted apart, not bent like by tools or machinery, but warped as if something powerful had gripped them. Embedded in the metal were small handprints, delicate, human, and scorched as if burned into the iron. Those who saw them swore it was Mary's doing, her spirit trying to grasp the gate, to break free from her own grave. The marks were photographed, studied, and talked about across Chicago. Even after the gates were repaired, the story lingered, as if the spirit herself refused to let the living forget. People have described Mary in many ways, sometimes sorrowful, sometimes serene, but always beautiful, eternally young, forever lost. Taxi drivers claim she appears in their rearview mirrors, looking out the window with a wistful gaze. Couples driving home late have seen her drifting along the roadside, her white dress glowing faintly in the dark. Some say they've caught her reflection in the glass when passing the cemetery, a fleeting image that vanishes when they turn their heads. But who was she really? Historians and ghost hunters have searched for decades, trying to uncover her true identity. Some believe she was Mary Bregovy, a young woman killed in a car accident in 1934. Others think she was an unknown dancer who met her fate after leaving the O. Henry Ballroom. The details blur, as they often do with ghost stories. Names fade, but emotions remain. Maybe that's why her legend endures, because it's not just about one woman, but about the ache of unfinished love, the haunting pull of a life cut short. Unlike darker spirits, Resurrection Mary doesn't seek vengeance or fear. She doesn't scream or chase. She simply walks, endlessly, gracefully, along the same road she died on, as if repeating her final journey until the world remembers. There's tragedy in her silence, but also a strange kind of peace. She isn't a monster. She's a memory that refuses to fade. So if you ever find yourself driving down Archer Avenue, the fog curling around your car, and the night unusually still, look carefully at the shoulder ahead. You might see her there, a young woman in white, her hair pale under the headlights, her hand raised gently for a ride. You may feel the sudden urge to stop, to offer help, to break her endless walk. And if you do, she'll thank you softly. Her voice almost lost to the hum of the engine. She'll guide you toward the cemetery gates, and just as you turn to speak, she'll be gone. The seat will be empty. The air will turn cold, and you'll realize that you've rejoined a story that began almost 100 years ago, one whispered in diners, told in bars, and passed down like a warning wrapped in wonder. Because somewhere between life and death, between Archer Avenue and Resurrection Cemetery, Mary still walks, a pale reflection of love and loss, forever hitchhiking through the fog of eternity. The Bell Witch. There are places in America where the air itself feels heavy, where the trees seem to lean closer as if listening, and the wind carries whispers that don't belong to the living. Deep in the quiet farmlands of Tennessee, one such place exists, a haunting so powerful, so enduring, that it has terrified generations. Locals still speak of it in hushed tones, never after dark. It is the story of a spirit that could speak, strike, and curse. A spirit so cruel and cunning that it became the most documented haunting in American history. They call it the Bell Witch. The story begins in the early 1800s in the small, peaceful community of Adams, Tennessee. John Bell, a respected farmer, had settled there with his family. His wife Lucy, their children, and their sprawling farmland that stretched beneath the shadow of dense woods. For years, life was quiet and prosperous. But in 1817, that peace began to unravel in ways no one could explain. It started with faint knocking sounds on the walls of the Bell home. At first, they thought it was the wind, or perhaps animals in the attic. But soon, the noises grew louder, more deliberate, rapping, scratching, and thumping in the dead of night. Then came the sound of chains dragging across the floor, the rustle of invisible skirts, the low, mocking laughter that froze the family's blood. When they lit candles and searched, there was nothing there. No intruder, no explanation, only the still air and the growing sense that something unseen had entered their home. Soon the spirit revealed itself in far more terrifying ways. The children woke screaming, claiming their blankets were being ripped from their beds. Invisible hands slapped them, pulled their hair, and whispered their names in the dark. The youngest daughter, Betsy Belle, became the spirit's favorite target. She was pinched, scratched, and beaten by unseen forces, leaving marks that could not be denied. Her cries echoed through the night, and no prayer could silence them. As weeks turned into months, the entity grew bolder and intelligent. It began to speak. At first, it whispered softly, its voice like wind through dry grass. But soon it spoke clearly, laughing, singing hymns, and mocking the family. It called itself Kate, and when asked who or what it was, the voice answered chillingly, "I am a spirit. I was once happy, but have been disturbed." Yet its actions showed no sign of peace. It cursed John Bell, vowing to kill him, and tormented anyone who entered the home. Word of the haunting spread quickly through the countryside. Curious neighbors and even ministers came to witness it, only to leave pale and trembling. The spirit seemed to know everything: private conversations, distant events, even the Bible by heart. It sang church hymns perfectly, quoted scripture, and then turned to hurl blasphemies and threats. At times it spoke in multiple voices at once, or imitated others with eerie accuracy. It seemed to read minds and predict the future. No one could explain how or why it existed, only that it was real and relentless. Betsy Bell, still just a young girl, bore the worst of its wrath. Whenever she became engaged to a local boy named Joshua Gardner, the spirit's fury grew. It screamed obscenities, struck her with unseen force, and warned that if she married him, tragedy would follow. The engagement was soon broken off, and the family's fear deepened into despair. Meanwhile, John Bell's health began to fail. The spirit never ceased its threats against him, calling him Old Jack Bell, and declaring that it would one day take his life. His lips trembled, his strength faded, and his sleep was plagued by the entity's voice whispering from the darkness. Then, in December 1820, John Bell was found unconscious in his bed, his face pale and still. Beside him, the family discovered a strange vial of dark liquid. When the spirit was asked if it knew what had happened, it replied gleefully, "I gave Old Jack Bell a dose last night. That fixed him." John Bell died soon after, and during his funeral the voice of the witch echoed through the house, laughing and singing mockingly as the mourners prayed. After his death, the activity gradually faded. The spirit announced it would leave, but promised to return in 7 years. True to its word, in 1828, the Bell Witch came back, speaking with John Bell Jr. for several weeks before vanishing again. Yet even then she claimed she would return once more 100 years later, and some locals still swear she never truly left. To this day, the Bell Witch Cave, a shadowed, damp hollow on the old Bell property, remains a place of eerie fascination. Visitors report hearing whispers, footsteps, and laughter echoing from the darkness. Some feel unseen hands brush their shoulders. Others hear faint voices calling their names. No matter how many times the story is retold, no one can say exactly what the Bell Witch was. A restless spirit, a curse, or something darker that fed on fear itself. What makes the Bell Witch legend so chilling is not just the terror it brought to one family, but the uncanny intelligence behind it, a haunting that reason could not touch. It was as though something beyond the human world had crossed into it, mocking faith, courage, and sanity alike. And perhaps if you walk the woods of Adams on a still night, you might hear it too. A faint whisper rising from the trees, a soft laugh just behind your shoulder, the sound of something unseen waiting in the dark. Because in Tennessee, they say the Bell Witch never truly died. She simply waits, patient, listening, and smiling in the shadows of the past. Bigfoot, There's a silence in the deep forests of the Pacific Northwest that feels alive, a silence so vast it hums, as if the trees themselves are listening. The fog curls low over moss-covered pines, and the earth beneath is soft with centuries of decay. It's in this silence that something ancient is said to move, not man, not beast, but something between. A towering creature with eyes that gleam like amber through the mist. Its name has echoed through generations, through Native American legends and modern campfire tales alike. Bigfoot. Long before the word Bigfoot was ever spoken, the indigenous tribes of the Pacific Northwest knew the stories. They spoke of giant hairy men who lived in the mountains, guardians of the forest who kept their distance from humankind. To the Coast Salish people, it was Saskats, meaning wild man. To others, it was a protector, sometimes a spirit, sometimes a creature of flesh and bone. The tribes warned hunters not to wander too deep into the wilderness, for the watchers of the woods did not take kindly to trespassers. The modern legend began to take shape in the mid-20th century, when the logging towns of Washington and Northern California became the stage for something strange. In 1958, at Bluff Creek, workers arrived to find enormous footprints pressed deep into the mud, each one nearly 16 inches long, with 5 distinct toes and a stride far longer than any human's. The men stared at them in disbelief. Whatever had made those prints had strength and size beyond imagination. Newspapers ran the story under a new name, Bigfoot, and the legend that had once been whispered in native tongues exploded into modern myth. But the truth is, the stories of sightings go back far further, whispered by trappers, explorers, and settlers who ventured too deep into the unknown. They spoke of a creature standing 8 to 10 feet tall, covered in thick dark fur, with a face disturbingly human, yet wild beyond reason. Its cries were said to echo through the valleys, long, mournful wails that froze the blood of anyone who heard them. Some swore they'd seen it watching from the tree line, its eyes reflecting moonlight like 2 silent lanterns. Others found massive footprints leading nowhere, as if the creature had vanished into the earth itself. Perhaps the most famous encounter came in 1967, when Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin rode on horseback through Bluff Creek and claimed to have captured the impossible. The shaky, grainy footage they recorded shows a massive figure striding calmly through the clearing, its arms swinging, its fur rippling in the sunlight. The figure turns its head once toward the camera, a brief, haunting glance, before disappearing into the trees. Skeptics called it a hoax, believers swore it was real, and even decades later, the debate rages on. Scientists have searched, skeptics have debunked, but the forests keep their secrets. For every explanation offered, bears, pranksters, optical illusions, there are hundreds of witnesses who tell the same story with trembling voices and steady eyes. Hunters, hikers, even park rangers speak of deep howls at midnight, of shadows moving between the pines, of a strange, musky smell that lingers long after the footsteps fade, and always the feeling of being watched. What makes Bigfoot so enduring is not just the mystery of what it might be, but what it represents, the untamed heart of the wilderness itself. In an age where every corner of the earth seems mapped and measured, Bigfoot stands as a reminder that there are still places where human understanding ends, where something wild and ancient might still roam. Some believe it's a relic from the prehistoric past, a surviving giant ape, a cousin to Gigantopithecus from ages long gone. Others insist it's something more spiritual, an embodiment of nature's hidden power, a being that exists between worlds, appearing only to those it chooses. There are even stories that link it to UFO sightings, as if the creature and the skylights share some cosmic secret. But perhaps the truth is simpler, that the forests of the Pacific Northwest are old enough to hold anything, and clever enough to keep it hidden. Even now, people leave offerings deep in the woods, apples, shiny trinkets, and food left on stumps, hoping for a sign, a gift, or a glimpse. And sometimes they return to find the offering gone, replaced by a smooth stone or a tuft of dark hair caught on a branch. Scientists may dismiss it, but those who have felt the weight of that gaze in the forest don't forget it. If you ever find yourself alone beneath those towering evergreens, when the light begins to fade and the mist rises off the ground, you might hear it too. A branch snapping somewhere too close, a low groan rolling through the trees, or a slow, rhythmic thud like heavy footsteps fading into the distance. You'll tell yourself it's the wind, or a bear, or just your imagination. But part of you will know, deep down, that something else is out there watching, just beyond the veil of human understanding. For in the endless green wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, where the mountains breathe and the fog never fully lifts, the legend of Bigfoot still walks, silent, unseen, and eternal. Bloody Mary. There is a certain kind of silence that lives in a dark bathroom, the kind that presses against your skin when the lights go out, and only the mirror stares back at you. You can almost feel the air thicken, your reflection blurring ever so slightly in the dim glow. That's when the dare begins, whispered between nervous friends at sleepovers, or muttered by the brave and foolish alike. Say her name 3 times? Everyone knows the legend, even if no one can say where it truly began. She's the ghost that lives in the mirror, the face that stares back when yours vanishes. They call her Bloody Mary. The ritual is simple, but it carries a weight of dread. You stand before a mirror, usually in the dark, a candle flickering faintly beside you. Then you say her name, once, twice, 3 times. Bloody Mary. And if the stories are true, she will appear. Sometimes she screams, sometimes she laughs, and sometimes she just watches, pale, blood-smeared, and hollow-eyed, before dragging you into the glass. It's a tale told in every corner of America, whispered across generations, yet no one knows exactly who she is or where she came from. Some say she was a witch executed centuries ago, her spirit bound to mirrors by a curse. Others claim she was a wronged woman, a mother who died searching for her stolen child, her grief turning to rage. There are even those who connect her to Queen Mary the Fair of England. Bloody Mary, they say, named for the queen who burned heretics and drowned her guilt in blood. But whoever she was, the story has twisted and evolved, passed from child to child, each retelling, shaping her anew. It's easy to dismiss it as a game, the kind of harmless dare every child tries at least once. But those who've done it swear it's more than that. They tell of mirrors fogging up without reason, of faces shifting in the reflection, of whispers echoing from the glass. One girl said the lights flickered and her reflection smiled even when she didn't. Another claimed she saw a woman Aya's pale hand reach toward her before the mirror cracked clean across the center. There are stories of scratches appearing on arms, of sudden nosebleeds, of dreams that feel too real afterward, dreams where Bloody Mary calls from the other side of the mirror, asking to be set free. The idea of a spirit trapped in a mirror isn't new. Across many cultures, mirrors have long been seen as gateways, fragile portals between worlds. Some believe that when we look into them, we don't just see ourselves, but also what watches from beyond. That's why in old traditions, mirrors were covered after a death to keep the spirit of the dead from being trapped inside. The reflection, they said, holds power. It's a piece of the soul. Perhaps that's what Bloody Mary really is, not just a ghost, but the reflection of human fear itself. The fear of what lies behind our own image. But fear has a way of feeding on belief. The more people repeat the legend, the stronger it becomes. Every whispered chant in the dark, every flickering candle, every heartbeat quickened by terror, all of it fuels the story, keeps her alive. And in some way, that's what makes urban legends so powerful. They live not in the shadows or in haunted houses, but in the imagination, passed through stories that grow sharper with every retelling. Still, it's strange, isn't it? The way mirrors draw us in. We stare into them every day, trusting that what we see is real. But what if, for just a split second, it isn't? What if the reflection doesn't quite move the same way, or the eyes blink a little too late? What if something ancient and hungry peers back through the glass, waiting for the one foolish enough to call her name? There is an old version of the tale that says, Bloody Mary doesn't RT come to kill, but to show you something, a vision of your future, or your death. That was how the ritual began, they say, centuries ago, when young women would stand before mirrors by candlelight, hoping to glimpse the face of their future husband. But sometimes, instead of a lover, they saw a skull, a sign that death awaited them. Over time, that innocent ritual warped into the horror we know today. The face of death, the curse of blood, the woman in the mirror who never forgot the ones who summoned her. Even now, there are stories from schools and suburbs across the country. A janitor finds handprints on a mirror after closing time. Small, red, and wet. A group of teenagers record themselves doing the ritual, laughing nervously, until the camera captures something behind them. A face, pale and grinning, visible only in the reflection. And then there are those who don't laugh afterward, who leave the room shaking, unable to explain why the lights wouldn't turn back on, or why the mirror fogged up with a single word scrawled across it, "Run." Maybe Bloody Mary isn't one ghost, but many, every reflection of fear we've ever created, given shape in the dark. Or maybe late one night, in some forgotten bathroom, she really does wait, silent and still, her eyes fixed just beyond the glass, listening for the sound of her name. So if you ever find yourself in front of a mirror with the lights off and a chill crawling down your spine, remember, you're not alone. The mirror doesn't just show your reflection, it watches back. And if you whisper, "Bloody Mary" 3 times, be ready. Because sometimes legends don't just live in stories, sometimes they answer. The Vampire of Highgate Cemetery. There is something unsettling about old graveyards, the way the mist seems to linger longer between the crooked stones, how the air feels heavier, as though holding the breath of the dead. Highgate Cemetery, though often associated with London, has its American twin in legend, whispered among the forests and fog-covered fields of New England. In the 18th and 19th centuries, long before Hollywood's pale-fanged aristocrats ever stalked the screen, the people of rural Massachusetts believed in something far more horrifying. Not elegant monsters, but the dead themselves, rising from the earth to feed upon the living. It began during a time when death was no stranger to the New England countryside. Families were large, winters were cruel, and disease came like clockwork, silent, invisible, and unstoppable. Consumption, as tuberculosis was then called, swept through towns, stealing one life after another. The sick would grow pale and thin, their eyes hollow, their strength drained until they wasted away entirely. Doctors had no cure, and priests could only offer prayers. But when entire families began dying in sequence, one after another, the survivors turned to something older, darker, and deeply human, superstition. They whispered that it wasn't sickness at all, that one of the dead had returned, not as a spirit, but as a vampire. In those days, vampire didn't mean the suave creature of fiction, it meant something far more grotesque. A corpse that refused to stay buried, that crept from its grave at night to drain the life from its kin. The townsfolk began to dig. Families exhumed their dead in the freezing dawn, praying they would find peace, and fearing they would not. One of the most infamous cases took place in the small town of Exeter, Rhode Island, though its echoes were felt across Massachusetts and beyond. In 1892, the Brown family was struck by tragedy. George Brown lost his wife, Mary, then his eldest daughter, Mary Olive, both to consumption. Soon after, his youngest daughter, Mercy, fell ill as well, her brother Edwin wasting away soon after. But when Mercy died, the villagers grew uneasy. Too many deaths, too fast. It felt unnatural. They convinced George to exhume the bodies, to see if one of the dead had turned vampire. When they dug up the graves, the truth, or what they believed was the truth, sent chills through every man present. Mary and Mary Olive were little more than skeletons, as expected. But when they opened Mercy's coffin, buried only 2 months before, her body was strangely preserved. There was no sign of decay. Her face looked flushed. Her heart still held liquid blood. To the terrified villagers, there was only one explanation. Mercy Brown was a vampire. What they did next would be remembered in whispers for centuries. They removed her heart and burned it on a nearby rock. The ashes were mixed into a potion and given to Edwin to drink, a desperate act meant to break the vampire's hold. But Mercy did not come. Edwin died shortly after, and the family was left shattered. Historians now know what the villagers could not. Tuberculosis was a disease, not a curse. Its symptoms, the pale skin, the sunken eyes, the coughing up of blood, gave the illusion of life being drained away. When bodies were exhumed in cold months, natural preservation made them appear lifelike, fueling the terror even more. But logic and science have never stopped a good story, and the New England vampire panic spread across Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut like wildfire. In some places, the stories grew darker still. People claimed to see figures wandering near cemeteries at dusk, pale, thin shapes with sunken eyes that glowed faintly red. Farmers swore they heard footsteps behind them at night, only to turn and find nothing but mist. Livestock were found dead in the mornings, their blood drained. It didn't matter if it was disease or devilry. The fear felt the same. And that fear has a long memory. Even Highgate Cemetery itself, across the ocean in London, would later become famous for similar tales. Shadowy figures seen flitting between graves, strange puncture marks on the dead. The Massachusetts folklore borrowed from that name, blending its own colonial hauntings with the Gothic dread of Europe. In small New England towns, locals would point to overgrown graveyards and whisper that Highgate's curse had spread across the sea. There's something timeless about the vampire myth, the idea that death itself can hunger, that it doesn't end with the grave. Maybe it was born from fear of disease, or maybe from guilt, from the ache of losing loved ones too soon and imagining some reason behind the pain. But there's a certain poetry in it too, the dead refusing to let go, clinging to life through those they loved most. Even today, some say, the old cemeteries of Massachusetts still hold uneasy spirits. On cold nights, when the wind sighs through the headstones, people claim to hear faint cries from beneath the soil, or see a pale figure drifting through the fog, searching, perhaps not for blood, but for peace. And if you ever find yourself wandering near an old graveyard at twilight, when the light fades and the air feels colder than it should, don't linger too long. Because legends never truly die, and in those haunted New England hills, the dead have been known to stir. The Jersey Devil. There are forests so dark they seem to swallow the light whole, places where even the wind sounds uneasy. The Pine Barrens of New Jersey is one such place. A sprawling tangle of ancient pines and twisting trails. It stretches for over 1 million acres and vast, wild, and eerily quiet. And locals say that when night falls, the woods come alive with strange cries and whispers that don't belong to any creature known to man. But one sound chills them more than any other. A blood-curdling scream that splits the silence like a knife. They say that's when he is near, the cursed child of Mother Leeds, the winged horror born of sin and superstition. They call it the Jersey Devil. The legend begins in the early 1700s, when the colonies were young and belief in witchcraft still hung heavy in the air. In a small settlement near the Pine Barrens, there lived a woman known as Mother Leeds, a poor, weary mother of 12 children. When she learned she was pregnant for the 13th time, she cursed the life within her, crying out, "Let this one be the devil." No one knows if she meant it, but on a stormy night, when the wind howled and the rain lashed against the wooden walls of her cabin, her words seemed to come true. The baby was born human for a moment, but before the midwives could even wrap it in cloth, the child began to change. Its skin darkened, stretching and hardening. Its limbs grew long and thin. From its back tore great leathery wings, and its feet twisted into cloven hooves. Its face warped into something monstrous, a long snout, burning red eyes, and a forked tail that lashed through the air. The room erupted in screams as the creature let out an unholy shriek, then flew up the chimney and into the night storm, disappearing into the blackness above the pine barrens. From that night onward, the monster was said to haunt the woods, preying upon livestock, travelers, and the unlucky souls who wandered too deep into its territory. Farmers awoke to find their animals slaughtered, their throats torn out, and strange hoofprints scorched into the ground. Hunters swore they saw a creature gliding between the trees, part bat, part horse, part nightmare. Its cry, they said, sounded like a woman's pious scream, mixed with the howl of a dying animal, so sharp it could pierce through your bones. As years turned to centuries, the sightings never stopped. In the 1800s, stagecoach drivers reported seeing a winged beast keeping pace with their horses. In 1909, a wave of panic swept across New Jersey when hundreds claimed to have seen it in a single week, terrorizing towns, scratching at windows, and leaving hoofprints on rooftops. Schools closed, factories shut down, and armed groups patrolled the woods. Even the police were said to have opened fire on the creature, but it flew off into the trees untouched. Skeptics have tried to explain it away, calling it a misidentified bird, a hoax or a trick of fear and folklore, but those who've heard its cry say no animal could make such a sound. Some believe it was truly born of Mother Leeds' curse, a demon child destined to wander forever. And a few whisper that it's older still, a spirit of the forest itself, a punishment for mankind's trespass into ancient lands. The pine barrens themselves only deepen the mystery. They're an eerie place, flat, endless, and filled with strange phenomena. Compass needles spin aimlessly there, and fires have been known to burn for days underground with no visible source. Travelers lose their way even on familiar paths. Some say the very air feels wrong, thick, watchful, as if the forest itself is breathing. It's no wonder that something like the Jersey Devil could take root in such a place. Over time, the monster became more than just a story. It became New Jersey's own legend, its shadow lurking behind every dark trail and lonely road. Campers still report hearing wings rustle above their tents or finding claw marks carved into trees that tower 20 feet high. Hunters claim to have seen glowing red eyes staring from the brush, vanishing as soon as they raise their lights. But the strangest part? The sightings haven't stopped. Even in modern times, pilots, park rangers, and motorists have reported seeing a dark winged figure swooping across highways or soaring over the barrens under the full moon. It appears suddenly, vanishes without a trace, and leaves behind only fear and silence. What truly happened that stormy night when Mother Leeds cursed her child, no one knows. Perhaps it was a tale born from guilt, poverty, and fear, a way to explain the unexplainable. Or perhaps somewhere deep in those endless pines, the 13th child still roams, its wings black against the stars, its cry echoing across the centuries. So, if you ever find yourself driving through the pine barrens after midnight and your headlights catch movement in the trees, something fast, something with wings, don't stop to look. Because once you hear that piercing scream, it's already too late. The forest will go silent, the wind will die, and you'll know that the curse of Mother Leeds still lives, wild, eternal, and waiting in the shadows. The Flying Dutchman of the Cape. There is no sound more haunting than the cry of the wind over a restless sea. The waves roll endlessly, crashing against themselves, and the horizon stretches into a vast emptiness that swallows all light. Sailors say that somewhere out there, where fog lies thick as ghosts and the ocean has no bottom, a ship sails with no crew of the living. Its tattered sails are filled not with wind, but with whispers of the damned, its lanterns glowing faintly through the mist like dying stars. When sailors spot it on dark, stormy nights off the East Coast, they know what it means: death, disaster, or a voyage never to return. It is the Flying Dutchman, the ghost ship doomed to sail forever. The tale of the Flying Dutchman drifts between continents, but its American echoes have long haunted the Atlantic seaboard. In every port from New England to the Carolinas, sailors once swore they'd seen it, a phantom vessel, gliding silently across the water, her hull glowing pale as bone beneath the moon. Some said she was a warning, others a curse. But all agreed on one thing: to see the Dutchman was to know your fate was sealed. The legend begins centuries ago with a captain named Hendrik van der Decken, the so-called Dutchman. In one version of the story, he was a proud, defiant man sailing around the Cape of Good Hope on a voyage home to Europe. As his ship rounded the southern tip of Africa, a brutal storm struck, blackening the sky and tearing the sails to shreds. The crew begged the captain to turn back, but Van der Decken, drunk on pride and fury, swore he would complete his voyage, even if it takes all eternity. In that blasphemous oath, he sealed his fate. The storm did not kill him, it bound him. From that moment on, the Flying Dutchman was cursed to roam the seas forever, her crew condemned to ghostly servitude, never to find port or peace. But somehow, the curse did not stay bound to the waters near Africa. Over time, sailors claimed to see her far from home, in the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and even along the fog-choked coastlines of America. Off the shores of Massachusetts, fishermen returning at dawn spoke of a ship gleaming crimson in the sunrise, too bright, too silent, moving against the wind. Off Cape Hatteras, whalers described a galleon appearing out of nowhere, its sails torn but full, gliding as if on invisible waves, and then, just as suddenly, it would vanish, dissolving into mist as if it had never been there. Each sighting carried the same dreadful warning. Storms followed, ships sank, or men were lost to the sea. Some said the Dutchman sought redemption, doomed to beg passing vessels to carry letters home to loved ones long dead. But the sailors who accepted such letters were cursed as well. When they tried to deliver them, they found the addresses centuries old and the recipients buried deep in forgotten graves. The letters, they said, would vanish by dawn, and those who touched them would never dream peacefully again. To the superstitious men of the sea, the Flying Dutchman was more than just a ghost story. It was a mirror of their own lives. The ocean was their master, their prison, their grave. Every voyage could be their last. And so the legend became a kind of warning. Pride, greed, and defiance could earn you more than death. They could earn you eternity. In the centuries that followed, reports of the ghost ship persisted even as the age of sail gave way to steam. During the 19th century, an American merchant vessel claimed to have sighted her off the coast of Delaware. A tall, spectral ship sailing directly into the wind, glowing faintly blue. The captain ordered his men to steer clear, but one sailor, transfixed, would not look away. He was found the next morning standing on deck, his face pale, his lips whispering, "They're still out there." He never sailed again. Even modern sailors have their stories. Coast Guard patrols in the mid-20th century reported strange radar blips, ships appearing in open waters only to vanish seconds later. Some fishermen off the New England coast claim to see faint lights flickering in heavy fog, old-fashioned lanterns swaying from invisible masts. The sea, it seems, never forgets its ghosts. The legend of the Flying Dutchman endures because it speaks to something deep within us, that fear of being lost, of wandering without end, of never finding rest. The ocean is a place of beauty, yes, but also of secrets, a world where the line between life and death blurs with every wave. And so the story continues. When storms gather off the east coast and thunder rolls across the dark water, sailors still look to the horizon, praying they see nothing but sky. For if through the lightning they glimpse a ship with glowing sails and a captain staring from the prow with hollow eyes, they will know what countless mariners before them have learned, that the Dutchman still sails, cursed and eternal, forever chasing the shore he will never reach. So if you ever stand on a lonely pier at night and see a strange light far out at sea, flickering like a dying ember, don't call out, don't wave, just turn away and leave the shore. For the ocean keeps its bargains, and some ships are meant never to come home. The Mothman of West Virginia. It began, as many strange legends do, on a quiet night in a small town, the kind of night when the air feels too still, and even the crickets seem to hush. In November of 1966, near Point Pleasant, West Virginia, two young couples drove through a desolate stretch of road that wound past an abandoned TNT plant, its concrete domes echoing with the ghosts of the war years. They were laughing, maybe telling jokes to fill the silence, until the headlights caught something on the side of the road, something that should not have been there. Towering above the car stood a creature, dark, winged, and watching. Its eyes glowed an unholy red, reflecting back like burning coals. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, with a sudden horrifying rush, it spread its wings, 10 feet wide, maybe more, and took off straight into the air. It didn't flap like a bird. It glided, silent and smooth, keeping pace with their speeding car. The couple screamed, tires screeched, and as quickly as it had appeared, the thing vanished into the night sky. That was the beginning. Over the next 13 months, Point Pleasant was gripped by terror and fascination. Reports poured in from farmers, police officers, and ordinary townsfolk, all describing the same figure, a man-like creature with wings like a giant bat, glowing eyes, and a chilling presence that filled the air with dread. Some said it swooped low over their cars. Others claimed it stood outside their windows, watching them through the glass. Dogs disappeared. Lights flickered in the night. And those who saw it spoke of a feeling that was hard to explain, not just fear, but sorrow, as though the creature carried with it some terrible knowledge. Then came the tragedy. On December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge, connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed during rush hour traffic. 46 people died as the steel structure plunged into the icy waters of the Ohio River. The whole town was shattered. But for many, one thought haunted their minds more than any other. The Mothman had been seen again just days before the disaster. Was it coincidence? Or was the creature a harbinger, a warning no one understood until it was too late? Eyewitnesses swore they had seen the Mothman perched atop the bridge itself in the weeks before it fell. Some claimed to hear an eerie hum in the air, as if the creature's presence disrupted the natural world. To the superstitious and the grief-stricken, it was no longer a monster. It was an omen. In the years that followed, the legend grew beyond Point Pleasant. Some called the Mothman a messenger from another realm, a guardian angel misunderstood. Others saw it as a curse, drawn to human suffering like a shadow before disaster. And strangely enough, sightings of the creature didn't end with the Silver Bridge. Reports surfaced around the world, in Chernobyl before the nuclear meltdown, in Mexico before earthquakes, even in New York before 9/11. Wherever tragedy loomed, some claimed to see those glowing red eyes watching from the dark. Skeptics, of course, have their explanations. Some say it was nothing more than a large bird, a sandhill crane or owl, its eyes reflecting car headlights. Others blame hysteria, the power of fear spreading through a small town hungry for answers. But believers know better. They say that something about the Mothman feels too deliberate, too intelligent. It's not just a creature, it's a sign. Today, Point Pleasant embraces its eerie fame. Every year, the town holds the Mothman Festival, where visitors gather to celebrate the legend that put their quiet community on the map. A gleaming silver statue of the Mothman stands proudly downtown, wings spread, eyes staring unblinking into the future. It's part tribute, part warning. But even with all the laughter, the souvenirs, and the selfies, there are still nights when the air turns strange, when the wind shifts through the old TNT plant ruins, and locals swear they hear the sound of wings brushing the air above. Some say if you listen closely enough, you can still feel the Mothman watching, just beyond the tree line. Not evil, not good, simply there. Perhaps the Mothman isn't a monster at all. Perhaps it's a reflection of something deeply human. Our need to find meaning in chaos, our instinct to search for signs when fate feels close at hand. Or maybe, just maybe, it's something older than we can comprehend, a sentinel between worlds, appearing only when disaster is near. So the next time you drive down a lonely country road in West Virginia, keep your eyes on the sky. You might just catch a glimpse of something enormous soaring through the fog, silent, watchful, waiting. And if you do, don't linger too long. Because history has taught us one thing: when the Mothman appears, something terrible often follows. If you love stories of haunted legends, dark mysteries, and chilling folklore from around the world, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a tale from the shadows. More legends are waiting, and some of them might be closer than you think.